everybody. Welcome. Where's my light? There we go. Woo! We are not even goodness. Here we go. Let's get all this set up. Boom, baby. Boom. We got the light show going. Come on. There we go. We got the Boys Crypto sign lit up. What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to the Boys Crypto show after a monumental, this is the 4-hour a day in the crypto space. Can you feel it? Can you feel it, Mr. Krabs? You feel it in the air, the macro bullishness of the space. Bitcoin SV going on a monstrosity pump to the upside, up 50% on the day. That's kind of crazy. I haven't even seen / talked about that coin in a long time, ever since it's been outside of the top 20 or top 15, top 10. Bitcoin SV going on a monumental pump today. A lot of the meme coins getting a little love. Wildcoin, HBAR, or WorldCoin, HBAR, Fartcoin down today 10%. This has been a wild market, everybody. Absolutely crazy. And yes, we gotta talk about Sui, baby. Sui screaming for the 4th day in a row to the upside. What's next for this behemoth? Is it going higher? Where can we expect some rejection, some retracement? Are we getting that right now? Is this just another flag that is gonna pump us up to the upside, baby? We'll dive on into that a little bit later. We got tons to cover today as we dive on into the market. Thank you for being here, Sid Nasty Kid. What's going on, man? April, Wanda, MH, thank you all for being here. Much appreciated, much appreciated. Hit that like button if you guys haven't done that already. Let's crack open a cold one to get started with the day. I'll tell you what, guys, you guys would not believe the day I had today, man. Woo-hoo! Woo! First of all, it was a great trading day. Had a great time trading. It was wonderful. But I had some bank issues going, man. I had some bank issues, some charges that I didn't make. You guys know how that is. And I was on the phone with the bank trying to understand what happened. And it wasn't me. So then I had to get like the fraud claim, right? And then them refund the money, which they already did, which was awesome. And the case got closed. It was just straight fraud. But I'm like, how could you do that, man? How can people just steal from each other like that? It drives me up the wall, man. It drives me up the wall. But yeah, I was on the phone dealing with that for like the past 2 hours. Absolutely grinds my gears, wasting my time on the phone with Capital One when I could be in the charts, baby. In the charts. Very difficult to do both at the same time, especially when the people on the other side of the phone are very difficult to understand. But yeah, we got through that, baby. We are in the charts today. Let's do something that we haven't done in a while. Let's pull up some Blowfin, baby. Let's pull up some Blowfin. Maybe get some live trading in later. We'll see. We will see. Man, we had a crazy day when it came to trading, everybody. We were in, out, all around. I was trading in the retirement account on I Trust Capital. I was trading in here, all the flags and everything. It was kind of crazy. We were doing some big moves today, baby. Some big moves today. We were just all over the place. Some bigger moves down here. It's all been Sui. So it's been a pretty wild day when it comes to trading. Had a great time throughout the day. Made some really good gains, some good percentage gains here on Sui, and man, it was a lot of fun. So we'll keep that on the side there. We'll move that on over here. And we see a hot opportunity, man. Maybe we'll do a little bit of scalping today. A little bit of scalping in front of you guys. Yeah, I got to get that cold one in, man. I'll tell you what, the stress of dealing with that bank stuff was absolutely crazy. All right, let's dive on into it. Bitcoin crypto bubbles, baby. Crypto bubbles, the biggest one on the day. Bitcoin SV up massively, 50%. Fartcoin, our biggest loser. We'll dive on into those a little later, but we're going to dive in where we start every single day with the coin that affects your coin no matter what it is, baby. Bitcoin. Did anybody think that we'd be up here at $95,000 again? This is a crazy market to be in as as optimism starts to spike. Look at this beautiful guy. I love the VRVP. I love it, man. You can't, to me, like, it just represents, you get above these high volume nodes, you could gap right up to where? Right to the next one. It's just the way it works. Low volume, right? Price tends to melt through that like butter. And for Bitcoin to the upside on the macro, that's the 4-hour time frame. The daily showing the same deal. We got above this high volume node. The minute we did, baby, we consolidated and boom to the upside. Now this is like the seventh green candle in a row for Bitcoin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be, assuming that we close where we do right now in about an hour and 38 minutes. This will be the biggest. This will be the biggest pump for crypto that we've seen in a while, especially on the weekend. Look at that giant green dildo here on the week to the upside. That'll be the third weekly green candle in a row. As long as weekend price action holds true, we are closing above that daily 200 SMA. And what do we say about the daily 200 SMA on this channel? If you start closing multiple candles, full body candles, which we have on the daily time frame above the 200 MA, that is incredibly bullish. Incredibly bullish. The 21, we are a little far from it. So I don't, right now, what I see for Bitcoin, I'll be honest, I know no one wants to, I know, man. I know no one wants to see a fly. I know no one wants to see this take days to play out. But we approached this high volume node and we hit it like a truck and we had a difficult time getting over it. And, you know, this high volume node mound takes us all the way up to about 98.3, another $4,000 to the upside. I think that the buyers and sellers are about to start going on a little bit of a bidding war here. And I don't know what this flag's going to look like here. It could be downward trending. We may retest that daily 200 SMA. It is still on the table and I'm not bearish at all. I'm bullish above that daily 200 SMA, which is sitting at about 88.8. That's only $5,000 beneath where we are right now. So, you know, boy math, right? Boy math. That is $6,000 below where we are right now. As that 21 comes up and curves in the price action, I would not be surprised to see some kind of consolidation after this monumental move. We're up about 20,000. Can you believe that? About $20,000 off the low. $20,230 off the low for Bitcoin. And, you know, with this pumpage, it almost feels like that dump never happened. What it feels like to me anyway. Yeah, there was a lot of pain and doom and gloom down here, but we were averaging in some of the hotter altcoin projects, and boy, baby, anybody who is in on those hot projects, Sin Nasty Kid, I know you rotated some profits into Sui, baby. I know you're happy today. I know a lot of the other people. I know I was talking to Wanda earlier. She was killing it on the leverage. Congratulations, Wanda. Was super awesome. Was messaging me. So, well, super awesome, guys. If you guys ever want to message me, feel free to message me on X. Give me your thoughts, ideas. I respond all the time. I always got my phone on me. If I see you guys messaging me, I will respond to you guys. And don't wait, if this stream gets bigger, and hopefully it does, but if this stream gets big, don't be telling people that. Don't be telling people that. This is for the OG early supporters, baby. Just message me on X, man. Message me on X if you guys got any trade ideas or questions, even if it's not during the normal trading day. If I know some of you guys aren't even in the United States, like if you guys just have questions, I always answer my DMs, baby. I always answer the DMs whenever you guys are messaging me on X. So I greatly appreciate that, and that invitation is out there for you guys. So for Bitcoin, I'm looking at this flag, right? This potential flag or potentially a cup and handle, right? Same idea. You have the flag or the cup and the handle. Now you can say, oh, Boys Crypto, the cup and handle usually comes down to the 618786 golden pocket Fibonacci zone, and I do have that on my radar down here at about $83,000. But with that being said, I want to see this daily 200 SMA hold. It is critical that we hold this line. The market sentiment is changing. The tariff wars are coming to the end, and we have interest rate cuts looming on the horizon. I don't see Bitcoin cutting back down. You know, if we start cracking this low of this consolidation period at about 83.3, that would be that would not look good. That would not look good to get up here, fail at this high volume node, and you could say, hey, that was no, we didn't touch the 618 yet. That is very true. No, we didn't touch the 618 yet. If that was a 618 retrace, that would have, you come back down here, that would have been the confirmation of your lower high. That's not what we want to see here for Bitcoin. What we want to see is continued candle body closures with a daily 200 SMA. Note how this is still curving up. This daily 200 SMA is going to keep curving up. If you're above the daily 200 SMA, you're okay, in my opinion. Now, would I go be opening up 50, 100X longs after we pump $20,000 off the lows? No, no, absolutely not. I've been scalping, right? I didn't get in any swing long positions, and honestly, looking back, I wish I was looking for those positions, right? I coulda, shoulda, woulda, but I wish I was looking for those swing long positions out of those that daily bullish divergence that was showing on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin dominance has definitely got to be rolling over, is it not? Sorry, guys, had to get the Capri Sun in. It is not. Bitcoin dominance continues to go. Why do I keep making lines? Bitcoin dominance continues to go on a tear. So we'll see where that leads. You know, I don't want to beat the dead horse with Bitcoin dominance. We'll just hit it real quick. Inverted cup and handle coming up to the 618786. Bearish Fibonacci retracement to the downside looks very, very likely until we crack this 786. Until then, I'm going to be bullish on the altcoins. I have to be bullish on the altcoins because if altcoin season starts, this is likely where it's going to start, and you catch the beginning of altcoin season, for those of you who weren't here in 2021, you could be looking at 5, 6, 10, 20x your spot gains in some of your favorite altcoins. If you get that, that could be life-changing money for you. So I'm going to be keeping this opportunity here on the horizon. I have to be viewing this as an inverted cup and handle, as that's what the charts are telling me right now. And where are we likely to reject from that 786, which sits up here at about 66.33? If we don't get the rejection there, Bitcoin dominance is just going to scream, in my opinion, to the upside, test these highs, and potentially go for those, 80... You know, it could be 80, 90% Bitcoin dominance in here, in that between 80 and 90. You could get that pump to the upside, and that's not what you want to see if you're an altcoin holder, but that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin dominance. Back to BTC, baby. So I went over my general broad idea when it comes to Bitcoin on futures right now. The weekly's looking okay. Looks like a higher low is printed. We're above the daily 200 SMA. We still are not out of the water. We got to get above that high volume node sitting about $96,000. We've been talking about this. We said, hey, when we pushed up into this range, right? And we got up to 90, what? Did we get up to 96? Tell me we got up to 96. We got up to 95,815. We talked about $96,000 being a heavy area of resistance. At least a little bit of consolidation is very, very likely here. What would the chart, does it make sense if the charts would just do this and we'd bust to all-time highs right away? No. Very unlikely. It's very likely we consolidate and we get that pump. If we get that pump, that would look really, really good. If we just reject from here, that would look very, very bad from a lower high perspective. It all comes down to this point of control. The point of control being the point at which the highest volume node is sticking out here on the VRVP. It's very, very important because the last time we were here, note over here, the last time we were at these prices was right here and the bears won out. There's likely still shorts / sell orders sitting up in this range, people wanting to get out of their Bitcoin position at these prices, right? Based on the VRVP and historical price action. The daily stochastics are a little cooked, not what I like to see. The RSI still does have room to run into the overbought territory, which is where you can get those really, really big moves. I'd like to see, RSI stochastics on the daily are pinned. I really do like seeing that. But very, very likely we get a little bit of consolidation while we wait for this 21 to catch up. So look here. Even here, when we get this massive pump, we got this see, that's I just love using the 21 as support on the way up. This was, the reaction of Donald Trump getting into office, or at least likely winning the office. And, that rally was absolutely massive. But the 21 did come up and did serve as support eventually. I still think that is likely to happen. I think this 21, if we pump higher, this 21 is going to start going vertical and is going to meet price action very, very quickly, just based off of how sensitive the 21 moving average is on the daily and on any time frame. Whenever you're looking at the charts, the 21 does move pretty fast, especially comparatively to the 200. But I'm looking forward to that golden cross. My definition of the golden cross, the 21 crossing the 200, baby. For crypto markets, it's different in traditional markets, the 50 and the 100. But I love the 21 crossing the 200. It's a great sign, great bullish sign. Last time we got that, we never looked back to the upside, baby. Whenever you get that that death cross to the downside, you struggle in the near term. Golden cross, big pump. So that's going to be a big, major bullish sign for Bitcoin if we can get that going on into the coming days. And it looks like that could happen, by the end of the month, by the end of April. And I think that notion of sell in May, stay away may not be the way to go this cycle. I can't believe it was, it's kind of crazy. But sell in May, stay away. This may be the beginning of the rally. It really could. It really could be the beginning of the rally. And I'm a firm believer, if we crack above 100K again, we may retest that high volume node at about 98, 97. But if we get a move like this, this will be to me, that point of control represents one of the biggest, juiciest long plays that you can have. And what am I waiting for? I'm not getting in now or anything like that. I'm waiting for a break above and a retest, right? And upon that reaction right here, that's where I'm going to be looking at opening up a long position for the cycle, getting in on that reaction and putting my stop loss beneath not only the high volume node, but at that point, the daily 200 SMA, and I'm going to be targeting up here at $140,000, $150,000 for BTC, and that would be a very, very juicy play to the upside if that opportunity presents itself. We're like snipers over in Afghanistan, baby, waiting for our target. Right, okay, I'm not going to say in Afghanistan, right? I know some of you guys are in Afghanistan, right? And I'm not making any notions about Afghanistan, but all I'm saying is we're like a sniper in the video game Call of Duty, baby, and you're waiting in the grass. You wait for your opportunity. You don't wait for your enemy to be, behind the walls and the windows and in cluttered areas. You wait for him to be in the bathroom, opening up his newspaper, reading about boys crypto and how the stream is going absolutely crazy and everybody following the stream is making absolutely crazy gains. And then that's when you take your shot when he's least expecting it, reading about crypto on the toilet while he's doing a number 2. All right, shout out to every single one of you guys that are here in the chat with me, hanging out with me on this Friday night, baby. There's a lot of people going out, getting turned in the club, I think that's what the kids say. They're doing the whip nay and all that kind of stuff. I know Sin Nasty Kid's been doing those dances, man, in those banana hammocks for the wife. But yeah, that's what a lot of people are doing on Friday nights, and you guys are here in the charts trying to understand and get a grip on the market and where it's going to likely go here in the future, into the weekend, into the upcoming week. It's going to give you an edge on a lot of the traders that aren't doing that tonight. So I commend each and every single one of you guys for being here. And this is the stuff I love, man. I love this stuff. I really do. So it's awesome that you guys share that passion with me. All right, diving on into the chat. What's going on, Sin Nasty Kid, April, Wanda, MH. Hi, Matt. Can you do XRP, US dollar on Bitstamp, 1 month in log mode? Yeah, man, we can take a look at it. Yeah. Can't wait. When you look at how, yeah, we'll look at house. Absolutely. Bitcoin at heavy resistance. I couldn't agree more. All right, let's dive on in. Hey, yeah, before I dive on in, I want to let you guys know I didn't get to any of those research things. I was dealing with the bank stuff. I usually do all my research right before I get on stream about that previous hour, and I was just doing with that bank stuff. I do owe you guys answers on all that stuff. I got my notepad here, baby. Got my notepad here. I got everything written down. I got the near goat, doing a little dive in on that. The Sin token, Lark Davis, and Cardano. And why it's not moving with the rest of the market, it's pretty interesting to me. So I still owe you guys answers on that. Keep it in your pants, Sin Nasty Kid, man. I know what you're thinking of when I'm sucking on that Capri Sun straw. All right, here we go. The first one from MH. Let's dive on in. XRP. Hey, we don't, I don't normally look at logarithmic charts. XRP, logarithmic, Bitstamp, logarithmic. If you guys ever want to look at the logarithmic chart, there's a little L down here that you could click on, and it changes the price scale over here on your, what do you want to look at, man? You want to look at it on the 1 month, yeah. The 1 month chart. That's wild. That's wild. All right, so this is the logarithmic chart for XRP. Logarithmic chart scales price, right? Scales price with time in a mathematical way that I don't understand. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But you could chart it the same way, and it just helps with analyzing assets that have gone on monumental runs like XRP. Like from the low to the high right here, that's 98,000%, right? So you can't really see that, right, in the charts and understand the complexity of the move, right? And you talk about Bitstamp, you're talking about the entire history of the project, which started back here in August of 2013. You can't fit a 98,000% move in a chart if you're looking at it on automatic. Like, look, we hit it on auto, we take off logarithmic, and you just see these little tiny flat bars. So you really don't see anything. This does not help you when you're analyzing price action. So it really does help whenever you're looking at, you could see all price action regardless of where price was or how violently price pumped. You could do this on Bitcoin, and you can see everything from when Bitcoin traded all the way down at 10 cents in a nice laid out chart format all the way up to $100,000. You can get it on a nice crisp clean chart as long as you scale this logarithmically. So that's really interesting. All right, so we want to look at this logarithmically XRP. Yeah, there's definitely some consolidation going on here, and you could say that this was a full-fledged breakout of a bull flag. Now, we have to be realistic here. We have to be real. I'm just being honest, right? With the logarithmic chart, yes, this does look like a bull flag. Yes, this could pump to the upside, and the technical target of this would be up here at about $647, right? Of this logarithmic bull flag. I will tell you this, with current market conditions and how much money is currently in the market, the amount of money that would be needed to make this happen, you would need to, 200x the market cap of XRP? So you would need about 20, if I'm right, that's about $20 trillion, is it not? What's 20 times 127 billion? See, I can't really do math that good. I can't do math that good. I was just in I was just in the military. We didn't do a lot of math. We did a lot of sailing. I will say that. All right. So we got, let's see here, real quick math. 80 127 billion. This is 127 billion. Multiplying that by, you would need to multiply it by 200. So you would need $25 trillion. That's, you're getting close up to what the national debt is for the United States, right? I think it's at like 36 or something right now. You would need a metric ton amount of money. So where are these trillions coming from? And trillions with a T is like, that would be 10 times what Bitcoin currently is. That would be the equivalent of Bitcoin at $1 million. So could that happen for XRP? I'll be the first to say that this coin has shocked the entire world. It has provided some of the best gains in the world, and it really has. And this is the monthly chart. So XRP can really do some damage, right? Logarithmically, the technical target is up here at like $600. Are you going to get that? I can't say that. I don't think that that's likely to happen. Just because of the amount of money in the space right now, I think if we get some mass institutional adoption, by mass institutional adoption, I'm not talking about companies and things like that, because they don't even have enough money to, even if they were to convert their whole net worth into XRP, like Amazon is only worth what, 1-2 trillion, right? Like it's not, there's only a couple companies that are worth over 1 trillion, and XRP getting to 25 trillion definitely seems a little out of stretch for the kind of pump that it had back there in 2014. So it's very interesting to look at. I will say that, very, very interesting to look at. And the technical target, I'm not taking away from this as a bull flag breakout. It looks like a bull flag breakout, and it smells like a bull flag breakout. You got that retest of that trend line, and it looks good to me. However, I don't think you're not going to get to the measured move, right? I'll put the trader stamp on that one. There's not enough money in the space in order to make that happen. Now, you get some kind of hyperinflationary environment, which you could argue we're heading towards. Anything could happen, but you would need governments, you would need entire countries to devote a very large percentage of their net worth to this project in order for it to even get close to those price targets. I think XRP has a great shot of hitting $5 to $10 this cycle if Bitcoin does decide to keep roaring to the upside. I don't think that it's gonna. I don't think it's really gonna keep pace with the rest of the market. XRP's had its time in the sun. It really has. And if people start seeing this, like even today, the last 2 days trading sideways, as a lot of this week, these are big numbers. XRP's been struggling this week. Not struggling, just trading sideways while the rest of the market runs. I think the catch-up plays are where I'm gonna be having my money anyway. Where I'm putting my, where I'm putting my bets, because I know there's a lot much further room to the upside with those lower cap altcoins in the event that altcoin season does start. Thanks for keeping that on our radar though, man. It is a really interesting chart to look at, and I'm not taking away from the technical target of that being, yes, up here at like $600 or whatever. But in order for that to happen, the amount of money that you needed to get from here to here is less than a fraction of a percent of the money you would need to take to get from here to here. That's the difference between logarithmic and automatic, because when you're looking at logarithmic, you have to understand that this price here scales logarithmically, and it gets very, very, very extended when you're looking at bull flag or bear flag targets based on the logarithmic chart. But very interesting, man. I appreciate you pointing that out to us, and it's very interesting. A breakout, nevertheless. However, the target of that, it just doesn't seem really achievable to me in this cycle anyway, unless we were to get some kind of massive change. The big change that could prompt targets, I wouldn't say like that, but much higher targets for me for XRP. I'd shift from a $5 to $10 to a $20 to $25 person. If we were to get that tax-free crypto in the United States, I will say that is something that I'm very, very interested in. All right, so what that got me off track. Oh, that's why it was, because it's still on logarithmic. But that is really interesting to me, man. I appreciate you putting that on our radar. That's XRP on the monthly, on the logarithmic scale. Very interesting, very interesting. Thank you, man. Thank you, MH. I appreciate you, brother. All right, diving on into the chat. What do you guys want to talk about today? Let's dive on in. All right, Bitcoin at heavy resistance, absolutely. What's the difference between stop loss? Wanda wants to know what's the difference between stop loss and liquidation price. Hey, Wanda, I appreciate you. I appreciate you diving on in. And the answer to your question, all right, so let's dive on over here into our, let's dive on over here. Let's go into a demo trading account here. All right, I'll pull up Bitcoin here. All right, so this is the demo trading account right on Blowfin, which is what I really wish I would have used prior to diving on into actual trading, right? I did use the demo trading account on Weeks for a little bit, but I really should have done more demo trading before I got into leverage trading. This was years ago, but man, the amount of money I would have saved and not lost, man, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? But yeah, demo account. If you're trading and you're new to trading, I highly recommend using a demo account, right? You got $50,000 of simulated US dollars in here. You can do whatever you want. You can blow it. You can make it, right? But if you turn 50 grand into 100 grand of simulated funds, you could do something like that with $50 to $100, or 100 to 200, 200 to 400, or 1,000 to 2,000, right? Whatever you're comfortable diving on into a leverage trading environment or platform, right? It really is helpful when you get an idea for trading. So your question is amazing, one, and I guarantee you that you're not the only person in the chat that's wondering that, right? So whenever you're putting your stop loss or liquidation price, right? This, for me, the way I view this, stop loss and liquidation, if you are on isolated, right? If you are on isolated and the price of, say I get into a trade, I could put my liquidation price, let me put it this way. My liquidation price is going to be listed. Oh, you can't see that, can you? Let's go right here. All right. I got to keep in mind of that because now I'm over here, right? Yeah. All right, so your liquidation price, Wanda, is going to be listed right down here, right? If I took out this trade right now at 94.9 and I was on 10x leverage, it doesn't matter how much of my portfolio I use, right? My liquidation price is still going to be the same. The liquidation price is when your exchange will force close your position regardless. It doesn't matter, right? And on isolated, right? Now, if you're on cross, you could get down here and it will be like something ridiculous where you could almost honestly never get liquidated. Or it could say doesn't liquidate on there. And you could open that up, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make money, right? If the price goes down, you're still beneath underwater, and this asset will be used to compensate losses in other assets, things of that nature. For me, in my trading strategy, I never trade on cross. I can't trade on cross. If I make a bad trade, I don't want that. And I have losing trades. Everybody has losing trades. But I don't want a really bad losing trade left on a non-stop loss cross leverage wreck my entire account. You know what that could have done? A great example of that was Mantra DAO. If you had a cross leverage position opened up with Mantra DAO in your portfolio when this happened, if you had a cross leverage position open with Mantra DAO when this happened, your entire account would be wiped out, or in the crazy deep red, because this position would not have been isolated. All positions that you had open would have sold out, or not sold out, but transferred funds from those open positions into this position to keep it afloat. And because of how severe MontraDAO crashed, that liquidation price, even though it was super low, right? It may not even been hit. You're left with dollars upon, a fraction of what you had in the account originally just because you were on cross. You're on isolated, just that position would have gotten taken out. That would have sucked, but all your other positions would have been fine, left alone. That's why I like trading on, that's why I love using isolated, man. It's just a preference. So yes, Wanda, the difference between stop loss and liquidation price. Liquidation price is going to be when your exchange force closes your position. A stop loss is where you manually say, hey, I want to cut this trade at this price. The difference is your fees. The fees that you pay when you're trading at 100 to 75, 50, 100, 125x leverage is going to be they're going to be very high. They're going to be very, very high. Whereas if you're trading at, 5, 10x leverage with a larger amount of margin, which means you're borrowing less money from the exchange, your fees are going to be lower, right? If your fees are lower, that's more money in your pocket. So to me, it makes much more sense to use more margin and use 3, 5, 10x leverage, even if I'm going for 100, 100 for 200, right? Vice using $10 for, $10 to control that same amount of position, because the fees are often going to push that liquidation price up so close to where price action is. The odds of you getting wicked out are incredibly high. So the difference between liquidation and stop loss is liquidation price, the exchange will close it no matter what you say, and the stop loss is going to be where you manually put that liquidation price, or where you manually put a position close price in the event that the trade goes in the wrong direction, and you're controlling the amount that you lose when you're utilizing a larger amount of margin, right? Because if you let that larger amount of margin go to liquidation, then you're out of your entire investment, right? But if you use a stop loss, that's how you can still do 50 for 100, 5 for 10, 100 for 200 without paying those egregious fees that come when you start tickling above that 20 to 25x leverage. Anything up in the 100, 125x, good night. Some of the fees are bigger than the position that you take out themselves. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's what that's the difference between a stop loss and a liquidation price, Wanda. That's just the way I would phrase it. I appreciate you diving on in and asking that question, because I know others had that question too. All right, so years and years away, maybe. Hey, MH, yeah. On the logarithmic chart for XRP, yeah, absolutely. It could be years away. I'm not taking away from that, brother. I think that some of the hotter coins in the game are going to get a lot of love, and we really don't know. We don't know what the how regulatory clarity is going to continue to shift in the country. Hopefully it's for the better, right? Hopefully it's for the better to prevent things like this from happening again, first of all. But yeah, definitely, so what's the difference between now and 10 years from now? I'll tell you the difference, right? What's the difference between now and COVID? And when it comes to monetary policy, there's 3 times the amount of money in our system as there was during COVID. What about 10 years from now? COVID was what, 2020? It's 2025, and we have 3 times the amount of money in circulation right now. So in 2030, are we going to have 3 times the amount of that, and then 3 times the amount of that? For those of you who don't know how that works, right? You 3 times the amount of, let's say, 100, right? That's 300, not bad, right? But then you multiply it by 3 again, that's 9. And then you're looking at 27 times greater monetary supply in the amount of, 10 years. That's just kind of using hypothetical numbers right there. But the idea of multiplying the amount of money that we have in circulation to prop up economies, that will make everything more valuable, man, more valuable in terms of dollar, right? You got to keep in mind when you're comparing things to, whenever you're comparing things to the United States dollar, you have to understand that there's more and more and more dollars in circulation every single day, right? We print money out the wazoo here. If for you guys who are in the United States, we pretty much print money like monopoly money. Whenever they cut interest rates for COVID, they printed thousands of dollars worth of checks and handed them out to everybody. And that's what Bitcoin's designed to go against, right? This asset says no more. The government can't control this. The government can't control Bitcoin. They can put regulations or whatever they want on it, but man, I'll tell you what, I got my Bitcoin, come and take it, baby. You're not going to, right? You got a 24-word seed phrase to get in here, my passwords, my pins, and everything. Good luck. Good luck they don't get hacked. Okay, maybe they have some hacker out there get hacked. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, it's to me it's safer than having it to me in a bank, right? I just had money stolen from my bank account today from some random dude in Pennsylvania. How did that even happen, right? What, did I put my card in the wrong place? It was one of those weird scanners at the gas station? Did he just have my account? What? But it's never happened on my ledger, but it happens to my bank account every once in a while. And I know all of you guys have been through that kind of thing too when you call the bank for fraud. Has anyone ever stolen crypto from you? That has not been directly your fault. You know, like, to me, it's a lot safer. I'd rather have my funds on there than in any kind of bank anywhere. Man, I do not like the banks, man. I'm telling you. But yeah, the printing in this country is absolutely crazy. And that's what Bitcoin goes based off of it. And that's why this thing is sitting at $2 trillion and 21 million. I believe eventually there's going to be a supply war or a supply shock for Bitcoin like crazy. Nobody could get enough of their hands on it because people don't want that. So if you had... Remember what it felt like when I was a kid, and when I was a kid, you know, for some of you that was, you know, well, when I was a kid, that was 20 years ago. And I remember people talking in school about the jobs that made a lot of money. And I remember it being nurses, doctors, all that kind of stuff. And I remember my one friend, Bradley, you know what? His dad made over $100,000 a year. And he had a giant home, an in-home theater, a hot tub. He had this cleaning maid that was there. It was absolutely crazy. He was the only person that worked. It was a family of 6. And I loved going over to Bradley's house. It was awesome. His dad was rich. It was fun. I had a great time there. Can you say that about $100,000 today? If you made $100,000, yeah, I think the average person needs $100,000 a year just to get by. It feels like in some areas of the country, $100,000 today is not the same when it was when I was a kid, and that wasn't the same as it was, 60 years ago. That's why all these old people are celebrating whenever they're selling their houses, because they bought it for a lamb and a piece of corn, back in the 1940s, and a $5 down payment, and now you're looking at several hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's just inflation. That's how inflation works. That's how stagflation works. And it will continue to do that. $100,000 today is going to be different in 10 years, different than 10 years. You're going to look back at $100,000 today and be like, wow, 10 years, you may be looking at a $70,000, $80,000, or you may be looking at $90,000, $100,000 cars that are coming out in the year 2035. Why? Because we just keep printing money. It's just the way it works. Oh, am I still over there? Ooh. Right? All right. Yeah. Gotta work on moving the camera now. But yeah, that's interesting. It's just an interesting thought. Yeah, I think there's going to be a massive supply shock over this stuff. There's no technology that competes with this. Satoshi Nakamoto brought it out of 2008, baby. 2008, why was it so important? Because the federal government bailed out a ton of companies. You own a GMC, that truck is 60% owned by the government. Why? Because GMC, 60% of their shares were purchased by the federal government upon their stock takeover because they needed to, or else they were going to go bankrupt. The only 2 car manufacturing companies that have not declared bankruptcy in this country is Tesla and Ford. Every other one of them that are American made have declared bankruptcy, and that was in the time of 2008. And a ton of companies did it, and a ton of companies got bailed out. And the amount that was all the money printing, and you could see it. You can see it. And my favorite way to look at it is gold, baby. Gold back in 2008. Where's 2008 here? 2008 financial crisis. So the minute we turned on that money printer right here, we never went back. And you could say, hey, but we had that, massive boom back here in the 80s. Okay, I got you. I'm tracking that. But, this was war and things of that nature. 1979, a massive stock market crash. And yeah, there were equities that were, severely overpriced at that time. And there were a lot of people competing for jobs. And it was just a disastrous time. But here, we turned on the money printer. We never looked back. And now look what happened to gold. You just had that massive melt up. A massive melt up on gold since 2008, almost up 5-6x from then. That's about how much more money we have in circulation now as we did back during that time. It's crazy to think about, but it's true. It's true. All right, diving on in. One was to look at render. Yeah, MH, I never do cross. Bro, I cannot, or ma'am, I don't know if you're a man or a woman. But yeah, I couldn't agree with you. I just cross leverage. To me, the risk of that, like if a company goes under, that's like if something goes wrong. Montreal, I can't think of a greater example than Montreal. Like if you had a cross leverage position, I don't care if it was 2x leverage, and you had the rest of your portfolio, and it was just a smidgen of your portfolio, it wrecked your portfolio. You woke up and you were like, what happened? What happened? I would have rather let that thing get stopped out / liquidated, vice it continually take money from my other positions to try to keep the position afloat. Cross leverage is dangerous, man. It's dangerous. In my opinion, it's dangerous. But there's people that do it. There's people that do. Sin Nasty Kid, retract that. Retract Mandy Coin, brother. Oh my goodness. I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. We'll dive into it. I haven't looked at that thing in a long time. All right. Render for Wanda. Absolutely. Let's dive on into it, Wanda. Render, one of the hotter coins in the game. Remember we were talking about Render down here, baby? Down here at this $3 level. We're getting in at $283. Feels really good right now. Sitting at about $450. Feeling really good. When you're staring at this chart, what screams to you? I'll tell you what screams to me. Right? Let's zoom on out here. What screams to me is this curvature right here. This giant high volume node gap. This gap here in the VRVP between 460 and 774. I think Render is on the cusp of a massive move. Look at it gapping up here in the VRVP. You came up to the next one, ping pong down. You got above, flipped it to support, and you pushed up to the next one. And now you're dealing with the last one. This is it. This is the high. Woo! This is the high volume node that you got to get above. If you can't get above this, that you know there may be some struggle here in the near term, but you're pushing on a level that will lead you to a likely area that you will cascade to the upside like you've never seen before. This high volume node. Come on now. Here we go. Zoom on in here. Get that range. Yeah, it'll update. There we go. Yes. So this area right here, a previous support resistance flip, we are having a little issue here. We are having a little bit of a problem trying to get back over this node right here. This support fell beneath, resistance, and now you're teetering with that line. Render gets through there and cracks through the daily 200 SMA. I think it could have a Sui-like move and push up here to at least test the daily 200 SMA. I think it'll go further than that. I think you'll get at least a wick, at least a very, very strong wick up into this high volume node cluster. Why? Because there's nothing. There's no evidence that there's any selling pressure here based off of the history in the chart. This capitulation, this stop losses and capitulation doesn't show that there's sell orders there, and the VRVP supports that. So when we get up into this price range, if buyers do have enough momentum, and again, I still think there's going to be some consolidation with Bitcoin here, but when that high volume node breaks, Wanda, I think that you could see a very, very quick run up into the $657 region here. This gap is nothing. It'll likely, and Render, one of the hottest coins in the game in AI, getting to that gap in the VRVP is one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite tools in trading. It's like a cheat sheet on the side of your screen. It's like, are we likely to cut through here? Like, what's going to stop you? This concrete wall or this paper mache? This concrete wall or this paper mache? Right? That's the way I view the VRVP. And right now, you're dealing with getting through that last wall, right? Getting through that last wall. It's like trying to get into Walmart on Black Friday, if you guys have ever been there. You're at that last person, and those doors flip open, and what happens? Whoop! Everybody falls forward, boom, right to the electronics section, so you get a big TV that your lady doesn't let you hang up in the living room. But yeah, that's what will happen. You get to that last resistance level here at that high volume node, where the last proof of any kind of selling pressure is in here, and you're likely to get that push, squeeze through that high volume node very, very fast. I will say this. I'm going to write this in here. Let's see. Gap through VRVP. Let's say highly likely. We're going to put this over here. We're going to put that gap through, right? And I think we're going to see some kind of candle, right? Like some consolidation maybe, right? Get above, high volume node flip. And we're going to see a move like this. A move like this, but to the upside. Does that make sense to everybody? A move like this, but to the upside. You get a little consolidation in here beneath that high volume node, right? You got here the same things. Consolidation underneath the high volume node. You cracked it, turned it into support, right? Looking at it inverted, that's exactly what happened right here, right? You got through, you got above the gap, and you flipped it into support, and you ripped all the way up to where that new VRVP is forming right now. So you can expect that to happen throughout the coming days and weeks here for Render. I think a little bit of a cool off is going to happen here. Let's see if this area can hold here as a support resistance flip down here at about $4.08. That would be an area I'd be really interested in looking for a long, as market structure has changed. Lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, higher high. Where's that higher low likely to come in? At the 618. And I think based off of the market structure here, I think it's safe to pull your Fibonacci from this impulse right here. And I think that would line up pretty close with your 408 level, would it not? Oh yeah, baby. That 403, let's pull it right here. Whoop. Yeah, that looks really good to me, Wando. Here at about 402 for a long. That's what I'd be looking at. That's where I would like to start seeing an entry for Render on the long side. A trade idea for that, I would love to use that whole golden pocket as support right there. I'd be going a little riskier here on Render, opening it up around the 618 and putting a stop below the 886, targeting that next high volume node. This would be the great trade idea for Render, and I'll keep you guys updated. I will say this. The trading environment has changed. You guys are going to see a lot more of my trades being posted here on X, on the swing trades, when those opportunities come to present themselves. They will be made here, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be my trade idea here for Render, using those high volume nodes as shields, preventing me from getting stop loss, getting an entry into that 618 off of this reaction down here, using the 786 as shield, using these two high volume nodes as a shield, and looking to gap up through this VRVP, baby, for a juicy 7.6 to 1 risk reward ratio trade. I like it. I'll take some profit here at the daily 200 SMA whenever we get there. And then assuming we get above, I'll take the rest of target, baby. That would look really, really good for me. A trade idea for Render there. I'm going to keep this one on my radar. And how do you keep things on your radar? Boys Crypto, how do you know? How do you know? This little plus button over here on the side lets me know everything, baby. It lets me know everything. You just hit the plus button right here. You hit add alert on Render at 403 or wherever you want to get in, and you add that alert. Your alarm or your phone, I have it connected to my phone and my computer, everything will go off, and you'll be like, what in the world? It's not time for me to wake up yet. And you're going to be up there at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be squinting at your phone. You're going to be like, Render's at 403. You'll be able to end your long and go back to sleep, right? Your lady may not appreciate that, but you know what I mean? You just give her, you keep a couple of chocolates by the side of the bed and everything. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Feed the beast. Feed the beast. But yes, that's what I do in order to catch the trades in the areas that I want to get in on anything. And it can happen at any time during the day. That's why those alerts are super important. And when you love this stuff like me, man, you don't mind getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, looking at your phone real quick and looking at the trade idea that you made prior and just setting it and forgetting it. It works out really, really well for me. All right, diving on in. We got Wanda for Render. We looked at Render, Wanda. Thank you. Setting stop, always wait. Mr. Nasty, I didn't mean for you to retract it, brother. I was just joking, man. I was just joking. Oh, you said don't look at Mandycoin, man. I'm just playing. All right, watch Bitcoin dominance. It hasn't even gained a bit in the last few days. Yeah. When dominance will start falling, we'll see a huge alt season. I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Christoph, yeah, I think alt season's right on the horizon. And the last time, and forever, I can't tell you how similar it is to last time, right? Especially right here. I remember this. You go back and look at tweets from this day right here. And you could zoom on in and look. When you crack this high, I remember this day back here. When we cracked that high for Bitcoin dominance, zooming across, this was the prior high right here. And at some point during this day, this was a solid, this wick represents, this was once a candle that looked like this, a solid green candle. Everybody was screaming that the alts are dead and Bitcoin's going to go to the moon and the altcoins are dead. And that was the beginning when everybody's saying that, oh, there will be no alt season. It is Bitcoin all day, every day, baby. And I think Bitcoin over the long term, I think is the safest hold. And that is the largest percentage of my portfolio. I will throw that out there. However, that was the exact top for Bitcoin dominance, and altcoin season ran, and those people were caught with their pants down. No lie. This is a kind of style that I expect for Bitcoin to turn around here. I have to expect we're turning around here out of this inverse cup and handle. Thanks, Christoph. I appreciate the opinion, man. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I side with you on that one, brother. All right, diving on in. Setting stops always works. Had a few jump my stop loss. That's true. Setting stop always works. Had a few jump my stop loss in that. The kid said, yeah. I mean, it could. Yeah, depending on the exchange too. Exchanges have different prices for assets. So if exchange has a low amount of liquidity and the price fluctuates pretty quickly, you can't get stopped out of your position. It's something to keep in mind. Oh my gosh, I just dumped a bunch of water on my mouse here. And I'm not in the business shirt today, guys. I'm sorry. It's a little more of a casual Friday. I was just so frustrated on the phone, man. I was like, you should have seen, I should have taken my picture like this. Like my profile picture like this with my eyebrows all flexed. But yeah, it's crazy. All right, not Nurse Mandy, MH said, yeah, Housecoin, hit it big today. Did it. Let's dive on into Housecoin. Let's see. You know what else I saw here? This is the number one trending one. Let's bonk on Solana and on Radium. This thing up 25,000% in 24 hours. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. But this just shows, like, if you could catch that, I'm not a meme guy. This is nothing I would have ever put my money into, ever, right? And I'm not saying, oh, I caught this at the beginning. I'm not. I just pulled up this chart. This is the number one trending thing, right? These moves, if you want to find big gainers, and you're talking about like 50, 100x in your money in a day, you got to be over here on Dex Screener, and you got to be finding things on Solana and on Radium. Or any of these chains, honestly, right, that have really, really low market caps. Because you 50x from 74 million, you know what I mean? This was trading at a $250,000 market cap, and now it's at 18 million. That's how you make those monumental gains. High risk. All right, let's look at Housecoin. Housecoin, baby, Housecoin. Wow. Hey, you are a winner, Sin Nasty Kid. What is that? Look at that move out of that triangle that we were speculating on here. It's not a target I would have been expecting, that's for sure. What a monumental move on Solana, blowing by the target by almost two times the target, man. That is a move, my brother. Let me tell you. Oh my goodness. You got to break it down on smaller time frames. You're looking to get in trades on here. And you know, you got a nice flag right here, pump to the upside. And now you're looking for this here. This is your next play here for Housecoin. It looks to me like you got a little bit of a shoulder, head, right shoulder. Maybe you had a potential breakout here on the 5-minute time frame. You got your shoulder, head, right shoulder, inverted to the upside. Looking for Housecoin to move a little further. Boom, baby, boom. I'm sorry, these dogs are distracting me. Let me put you guys on mute for a second. Dogs! Hey! Hey! Hey, giant pieces of bacon. Oh, you guys are home? What's up? All right. Just my roommate's coming home. Let me unmute this thing. All right. Let's see. Oh, we weren't muted. Weird. Yeah, it's almost like I talk to my dogs. I don't abuse them, I promise. But they are very loud and obnoxious sometimes. And I will say this. For the men that are out there, if you guys have pets, right? If you guys have pets and you're the person who cleans up the doo-doo in the house, I'll tell you what, you get a different feeling sometimes when they bark, man. I don't know what it does. It just itches me the wrong way. I'm like, good night. I cleaned up your doo-doo this morning. Now you're going to bark during the stream? You're going to bark during the stream? Woo! All right, yeah, back to Housecoin, baby. Housecoin looks good for a move to the upside here on the 5-minute time frame. We have no choice. We have no choice but to look at it on the 5-minute time frame after a monumental move like this. With that being said, high risk, high reward right here for this 5-minute move. Look at this on the 5-minute. The target will take you another 20% move to the upside. And even just in the last couple minutes, that candle does look to be moving here on the 1 minute. Since we started looking at this thing, that could be a potential retest here. And on the 5-minute time frame, it looks a little cleaner. But yeah, this thing looks like, it looks saucy, baby. It looks saucy to the upside here for Housecoin. Out of that shoulder head, right shoulder inverted, the further you push up here on the daily, the likelihood of consolidation / a pullback does increase. That is a beautiful volume candle here for Housecoin. Nasty Kid, thanks for shouting that out, brother. You've put it on this channel and you put it in front of our eyes to see, man. And that thing went on a tear. Honestly, since the low here, and this just happened in just the past couple hours, a 3x on your money on Housecoin, baby. A 3x money on your Housecoin. You know what I would do if I was in a position, and I'm not, but if I was in a position here on Housecoin, you know what I would do? You're up 3x on something, take out your investment, take out your initial investment, and you let the rest ride, baby. You let the rest ride. You made a risk-free trade, and now you have more of an asset and the same amount of dollars that you can invest into the next opportunity that you think is going to perform similar to the Housecoin, right? I wouldn't be averaging in up here, that's for sure. Like with the risk of a pullback, that's for sure. But I would de-risk here, de-risk a little bit, even just taking 50% off the table right here. And letting it ride and see where it could go, man. You may have found the next big thing, a 3x, a 4x in just a day, a 283% in the past 24 hours. Congratulations, brother. That is a monumental amount of money that got put into this asset. I don't know what happened, if it got some kind of news or something, but man, out of that break, out of that fly, congratulations, brother. That is a monstrous move to the upside. Outshadows anything that I've looked at here on the channel in the last day, that's for sure, as far as percentage gains wise. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. All right, yeah, that's Housecoin. You got to break it down into smaller time frames. If you don't, man, that's the only way I could look at it. Like, as you look at it on the daily, what do you chart? You just chart a straight line. You can't do that. To me, I can't do that. If you guys can, let me know. Let me know how you do it. But yeah, that's a monumental move, a monstrous move for House on Sol. Very interesting, very interesting. Andrew Grisson, hey man, I appreciate you diving on into the chat. My first time seeing you, man. First time seeing you. I appreciate you diving on into the chat. Speedy. Oh, maybe talking about me, man. Maybe talking about me. Yeah, I did talk a little fast, but hey, I'm excited about the space. I'm really passionate about this stuff. Trading's my life, man. I love it. I love doing it every single day here with you guys. All right, diving on in. KDA, what do I think of the project? Yeah, let's I'll pull it up from a charting perspective. I'd be lying to you if I said I knew what it was. KDA on Tether. New project, huh? Not really. KDA. Yeah, so whenever I'm looking at a project, right? If I'm looking at a project from a fundamental perspective, KDA. Cadena, price, coin market cap. You got a fixed supply. Yeah, you got, okay, number 244, you got a fixed supply, total supply 1 billion, max supply, the fully, yeah, it's about 31% of it's out. I'd have to look at the vesting schedule. That's very interesting. Do they have a website pin here? Yeah, they have a website and a white paper. KDA, I'm going to add that to my list, brother. I owe you guys some answers on some of these coins that you guys have dropped my way. Don't know a lot about these projects. I know a lot more about the projects that are in the top 100, right? Not so, that's just kind of investor I am, man. I look at that 1 on 100, 1 to 100 on bubbles, man. And these are the projects that I know and I love, man. I know and I love. So yeah, the Cadena falls out of that realm. Yeah, does have some advertisers here. Really interesting. I'll dive on into the white paper and see what they got to offer. And I'll take a peek at that, man. I'll let you know what I think. But yeah, if they have a good website, I'll dive on in. I'll dive on into the team. I'll let you know what I think, brother. I appreciate you dropping that on my radar. I appreciate it. But I got that on my wrist. I owe you guys answers. I'm gonna get you guys these answers tomorrow, man. I had to deal with that bank stuff today. It was absolutely frustrating. Absolutely frustrating. But I owe you guys some answers. So some of those coins you guys have dropped in the chat over the last day or so. So thank you. Yeah, man, absolutely. $150 into 3K in 3 weeks. Shout out to you, Nasty Kid. That is absolutely monumental, brother. Yeah, let us know how you did it. $150 into 3K in 3 weeks. You're talking about over 10xing your portfolio. 150 to 3K, that's 20xing your portfolio in 3 weeks, man. Let us know how you did it. What were you looking for? What were the assets you were doing? Were you doing leverage, just spot, trading things on Solana? What do you look for when you're getting into the trades, man? Those are the kind of hot things that I like to find here on this channel when we're diving on into the chat, man. If you got a strategy, hey, we'd all love to hear it, brother. I appreciate you, and I know a lot of the stuff that you've put on our radar has been absolutely hot. We looked at Kaito, we looked at Altcoin making that monumental multi-100% move over the last day. That's crazy. What are you looking at when you're looking at the metrics, man? How are you finding these coins? We'd love to know. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. Drop that stuff on into the chat. Drop that stuff on into the chat. Yeah, I love looking at metrics and new stuff, man. It's stuff I'm learning here on this channel, just like you guys. Like the things I don't know everything, right? I know how to chart. I could really chart anything. I could really chart anything. You could pull up the chart of eggs and whatnot. I know we have here on the channel, and it's charted the price of eggs, right? We analyze stocks, gold, crypto, literally every commodity on the, indexes. We can look at bond prices, everything. We could chart anything on this channel. That's what I'm very, very good at. And that's how I make my money here, sitting at this computer, staring at a screen, right? So that's what I'm good at. The fundamentals, utilizing leverage, right? The fundamentals of coins and things like that. I don't really dive on into that too much outside of the top 100 into the low market caps, because I know there's a lot out there that are ultimately going to go to zero, right? On this chart, right? Like I have a lot more confidence in the things in the top 100. Vice down here and 800, 900, 300, right? Like even though you get 200 to 300, these market caps are relatively small. 154 million, like you could 10x just getting to $1 billion market cap, which isn't out of the ordinary for a lot of cryptos, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting. XYO. What is that familiar? Is that one you could go around and you could collect it? Yeah, XYO is that protocol that makes money by utilizing like where you go and getting positional data. It's pretty interesting. I actually used to use it when I first started in crypto. It was I got that little card in my wallet and stuff, and I would just turn it on my app on the phone. I would mine this stuff. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it's been a minute since I've looked at it though. That's wild. But yeah, XYO baby. But yeah, that's kind of I'm great at charting, right? When it comes to finding new projects, I could let you know what I think of a project and the development team and everything, but I haven't found a 10,000x or a 1,000x or any of that before it happened. I've never done that. So yeah, finding those hot setups and things like that. Like I know how to trade. I'm really good at trading, and that's like my expertise, if you will. It's not finding new projects. That's just not where my expertise lies. So I love that knowledge, man. I appreciate you. All right, diving on in. GRT from Christoph. Yeah, man, absolutely. Let's dive on into it. GRT. Let's zoom on out on the daily. All right, so a lot of these altcoins look very, very, very similar, okay? GRT, getting the reversal like the rest of the altcoin market. I think this one. Yeah, like the graph, baby, the graph. This coin can move, man. I remember some of the big monumental blow-offs that this thing had, back here, 2024. This run was absolutely insane. 185% in a relatively short amount of time. These squeezes were massive. Back here when the graph was released, oh my gosh, back here in 2021, this thing got some FOMO, man. A 13x in just a month. Wild times for the graph token. Since then, retracing massively to, honestly, almost all-time lows. And now graph showing some signs of life, just like the rest of the altcoin market. Let's dive on in here and see what we can find here on the smaller time frames. So on the daily, first of all, the weekly, getting a nice candle here, trying to test that high there on the weekly. On the daily, we're looking to do the same thing. Let's pull our Fibonacci, our bearish Fibonacci, because we're making lower highs and lower lows as it currently stands here on the daily. You are getting above that 786, a key area for this project to close above in the next 40 minutes or so. You did get that 886 retrace. That could be a potential lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. That would be the area where the next lower high will likely come in. However, we get that close with the 786. I do like looking at this from a VRVP perspective. You are trading above the highest volume nodes right here. Your point of control sitting at about 9 cents of this range. It looks like you get a gap up, and you can get a gap up pretty quickly. And for tokens like Graph can move, baby. Graph can move, and Graph can move quickly. So what would I be looking at here for Graph? Well, the beginning of what I see as a potential shoulder head, a potential right shoulder. Now, what would I be looking at as far as the right shoulder goes? I would want to see a higher high be formed here. And then that cup and handle portion of the inverted head and shoulders would likely present itself. That would likely be where the shoulder comes down out of the inverted shoulder, head, right shoulder, that 618 area being a beautiful entry point right above the high volume node, depending on how high we pump up here on Graph. That would be a beautiful long area. Honestly, if altcoin season is going to start, everything in the top 100, I believe, is going to pump massively. And if you could catch something like this off the lows, Graph at 10 cents, and you come up and crack even the local high, that's a 3.5x from there without leverage. So that would be a very, very interesting area for Graph for me. Getting above this high right here, changing market structure from a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and now that first higher high potentially being formed here, that first higher low is where I would likely love to get into a long position if the market conditions are right, and that's where I'd be looking at the 618 here at about 8 cents, depending on how high we pump here, right? This thing's gonna drag with however high Graph pumps, even if it's a blow off top scenario or a blowout scenario where you get a massive wick to the upside. That wick is still valid from the Fibonacci's I pull anyway. I'll pull it from the swing of that entire wick, and that 618 would likely be the area where I'd like to start getting in. That's what I'm looking at for Graph. You have had about a week of straight pumpage so far. How much is in the tank? Well, you could dive on in here into the smaller time frames, and if you're a scalper, baby, you could feel the bullishness in the air. As we've been scalping, we've only been scalping Sui over the past couple of days, or I have anyway. And you know, these altcoins look so frothy right now. Like, everybody's expecting that massive Bitcoin season, you know, and altcoins are just kind of slowly in the background saying, I'm not done yet. And some of the stronger coins anyway. I saw Ondo working with the SEC. Working with the SEC for real world asset tokenization. That is huge. Getting involved with the government, reclaiming that $3 billion market cap. Also very, very interesting. Sui potentially partnering with Pokemon, bringing back the NFT space, I think will boom massively if that deal does come through, if those rumors do come to fruition. Very interesting. All right, so Graph here on the smaller time frames, I would honestly take this flagpole right here. You got a nice bull flag coming up. You got the 1 hour 21 coming up in the price action. I might wait for the 2 hour right here, and you can even say that this is your macro bull flag, but I like from this reaction right here from that wick, and that would give you a nice, safe, nice, good feeling target here of about 11.18, right, for Graph. That would represent a nice little scalp right here. Getting in on the bull flag, putting a stop at least below the 21 and going to target. That would give you a nice juicy 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio trade if you do see this continuing to the upside out of this flag. Right now, I would wait for the stochastics to reset. They already have on the 2 hour. How's the 3 hour look? 3 hour looks okay, and the 4 hour does look okay. I'd like to see a little bit of a bend in the 4 hour, and there's no major divergence forming here so far on Graph, so that does look relatively good to me. I wait for a little more consolidation before I decided to pull the trigger, but man, it is looking good for a lot of these altcoins. Graph looks good. I think Graph's going to get another squeeze to the upside, which is where I would potentially be looking for that higher high to come in on the macro and then retrace for that cup and handle, baby. That's what I'm looking at for Graph. I appreciate you keeping that on our radar, MH. You're an absolute legend. Thanks, man. All right, Core. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let's dive on in. Core. Do I think Graph could get back to the all-time high? I'll be honest. I don't know much about the project. I really don't. I do believe this about the altcoins. I'll say this in general about the altcoins. There is not enough money in this space, and there will not be enough money in this space for every single coin. There's like 4.5 million coins now. There was like 10,000 back in 2017, or not even that. There were like maybe a couple thousand back in 2017, a couple 100,000 in 2021, and now we're looking at 4.5 million total projects. There's not enough money in the space to pump them all. Not like the way you had back in 2021 or 2017 for that matter. You're not going to see pumps like that on everything. I think there's going to be a massive redistribution of money in the altcoins. I think that this season, that at least, I'll say at least 4 of the top 10 coins get replaced, right, in the top 10. I think there's going to be four things up here on this list that get knocked off the docket in one way, shape, or form or the other. I still think Ethereum is going to be in the top 10. I'm talking about these bottom 5 right here. I'm not entirely sure that these coins are going to remain here for the rest of the cycle. I think a lot of these projects down here have a lot more potential, right in the 10, 20, 30, 20, yeah, the 10 to 30 area. I think it's just hot, man. A lot more development going on in those projects than some of these older ones, even the layer ones. I just got to say that. With Graph, further down the list, right? You really got to believe in the project if you think some of these coins are going to revisit their highs. Right? Is the team still there? Is the team making developments? What use case does it have? Is it going to be implemented with other major companies? Do you have a major investor? What's your staking rewards look like? Do you have a vesting period on your unlock schedule? If there is one, right? Is there an unlock schedule for Graph? Is the total supply out? Is there an infinite supply? So a lot of these things I think are going to be going into, and there's no max. It doesn't say the max supply right now. But the circulating supply, 9.77 billion graph, right? Oh, the total supply, 10.8 graph max supply. Okay, so yeah, you want to see if this value can change right here. Fully diluted value, okay. Yeah, and it's interesting. And if you guys ever like, oh my gosh, I don't really know what other traders are doing, there's a little like social media section here on the side of CoinMarketCap, right? CoinMarketCap, awesome site if you guys haven't used it before. But over here on the side, a lot of traders post their stuff up in here. I don't post my stuff in here, but yeah, it's kind of a little social media for crypto. It's a cool little community to be involved in. So I don't know if it's going to get back to the highs, man. I can't tell you that. I can't speak much about the project, but I will say that there's going to be a redistribution of money in these altcoins. And I don't think I could personally guarantee you all of them are not going to return to their all-time highs, right? I think that speculation phase is done. I think it died with Trump coin. I think a lot of the gambling is not out of the space, but going to be a lot less frothy moving forward after the trauma of Libra, Trump coin. Everybody's going to be chasing that new hot thing. And for some of these coins that have been out, unless they come out with a major development or something like that, what's the hot thing people are going to be chasing that's going to get this kind of FOMO action into the market that's going to allow you to come up and test these highs right here? You're going to have to 30x from where you currently are for Graph, right? Which is currently sitting at 1 billion. You're going to need to get to a $30 billion market cap. Yeah, you will. A $30 billion market cap to get back up to the highs of where you were back here in 2021. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if that's even possible, right, for Graph. Very interesting. Very interesting. All right, but that's what I'm looking at, baby. That's what I'm looking at. All right, Christoph, I appreciate you asking the question, man. Yeah, turning 150 into 3K in 3 weeks is absolutely wild. It's a nasty kid. Congratulations, brother. MH wants to look at Core. Yeah, let's dive on into Core. I appreciate you. I appreciate you diving on in and asking those questions. Core, baby. Core. Let's dive on into it. Core on TradingView, on the perpetuals. Did we look at this the other day? We might have. On Bybit. Yeah, we did. All right, so here we go. Core, baby. Core on the daily. You got that nice bullish divergence that got you that kick out of this range. Now coming up to test that key area, the daily 200 SMA. We talked about it here, gapping up. We had to have talked about it. I can't say I didn't write it down or anything, but we had to have talked about this gap up in the VRVP. You reclaim that high volume node, flip it as support. That's beautiful right there. You can see this candle coming down, flipping that high volume node into support. That's the long opportunity, baby. That high volume node, and boom, to the upside. For Core looks really, really good to at least continue gapping up into this next high volume node. You're rolling the ball off the hill. You were on the hill here. You got up and over the hill. Now you're rolling down, right up to where? That next high volume node. Even here, this high volume node that stuck out. That was the area we saw a little bit of resistance here in the charts. And now, right? Now you got over that resistance, and now you're coming up to test likely the daily 200 SMA sitting at about 82 and a half cents. I think that's very, very likely here for core here in the near term. Now, where would I be looking to get in? Well, if you're a scalper, you got to zoom in at the top of smaller time frames. And it seems like it's copy and paste on a lot of these altcoins. You gotta be zooming in on the smaller time frames to take advantage of the next flag, right? Because you're gonna flag out and pump until you don't, right? Eventually, you're not going to do it anymore. But high risk, high reward, right? The more times you flag and pump, the increased odds of it not working out in your favor. However, if you get the flag and pump again, that would be an immaculate play right here. Speculating on this play to the upside, that would take you all the way to the daily 200 SMA for core. This would be the flag that I'd be watching as you go throughout the night. The 1 hour stochastics are reset, saying, yes, I'm ready to go. 2 hours at fair value, 3 in the 4. I like that right there. Notice how on the stochastic RSI right here, which measures momentum in the market, the blue line's crossing your signal line right there on the 3 hour or more. Notably, the 4 hour is sitting flat. That is very, very nice on the RSI right here. Let me expand that right here. When this starts to curve back up and you push up into the overbought region, you could get another 2 candles like this, which would coincide with a nice pump, another 10, 12, 15% for core to the upside to at least test that daily 200 SMA. Everybody here that watches this channel knows the difference between me being a bull and a bear on the macro is whether or not we are above this red line. We get above that red line, we likely pump. We fall below that red line, man, it's dangerous. So this is my line in the sand. You get above this and you flip it to support, you could look for higher prices here for core, potentially even coming up to test these highs. Where would I expect the next resistance zone after you break the daily 200 SMA? Well, based on the severity of the dump, as fast as you dump, that's as fast as you can pump, baby. That's as fast as you can pump. And I'd be looking, once we crack that daily 200 SMA, flip it into support, I'd be looking for a push up here to about $1.44 to $1.65. That would be the first area of macro resistance that I see in this zone. Why? It's the bearish 618-786 golden pocket Fibonacci retrace, an area that gets respected all the time here in the markets. Did it get respected here? Very, very likely. From that initial reaction up here, you got to the golden pocket and rejected down. So that's where I would expect the price to go here in the near future here for core. You're going to want to look at the smaller time frames. Wait for some kind of consolidation if you're going to get into a macro swing play. But if you're a scalper, baby, this is scalper heaven right here. Diving on into the smaller time frames, flag after flag after flag, taking it to the upside, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. That hits. It's just fun to be a scalper, man. It's fun to be a scalper. All right, but yeah, that's what I'm looking at here on the at least the 1 hour, 2 hour, 15-minute time frame. All the time frames are kind of lining up into this flag out until you don't scenario, and it's working like this for a lot of the altcoins as well, as Bitcoin holds its own up here at about 94.6. All right, diving on in. Sin Nasty Kid got me a little book here, brother. I appreciate it. Just spot traded over 3,000 times, just buying the lows and selling the highs. Up to 750, hit a 3x on my 750 today. Lots and lots of work watching the buyers. Hey, man, I appreciate you dropping that in. Yeah, there's tons of different ways to trade, and you don't even need to use leverage to trade. You like leverage just amplifies these gains, right? You're still going to have a tough time finding 15, 44, 27, even 10% gains in a single day in the stock market. Very rare, right? But if you could get a hand of spot trading, it's nice. And there's a lot of places you can do it fee-free, which is great, which is awesome, right? As long as you're not, marketing, using market orders and everything. Those usually come along with a fee, but yeah, the market looks really, really good today. This week has been incredibly frothy. With that being said, I want to bring you into a little bit of caution going into what is the next 2 days. What are the next 2 days that are coming up, baby? That's right, everybody, the weekend. What happens on the weekend? Well, the market makers that aren't institutions can go to work. And what would you be doing if you were a whale here in this scenario, right? You would be trying to accumulate what feels like is the last opportunity to accumulate some Bitcoin before we go back up and test $100,000. Is that possible? Yes. We can definitely test $100,000 this upcoming week even, potentially. But Saturday, Sunday, we got to keep in mind there's going to be on this daily candle close, which happens in 26 minutes. What you want to do on the daily candle close is mark this. You want to mark this line right here. And you want to put the CME gap. This gap, right, the CME gap will likely be, it's only not been filled like 3 times in Bitcoin's entire history since its inception. The odds of this gap being filled, and what does a gap fill mean? Well, it means that on Friday at the close in 25 minutes, right, at about, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, on Monday, when that candle opens, that candle, right, because it's the weekend and those institutions aren't in, that candle will likely, even if we're trading up here, right, is likely to get filled before moving higher, or if we fall below, we're likely to run up, fill it before moving lower. That's how CME gaps work. It's just theory. They don't have to happen. Like I said, there's 3 times in Bitcoin's history where it doesn't, but it's something we want to keep on the radar, and a lot of the traders watch out for. Why? Because it historically has been an amazing indicator of where price will revert to after a weekend move, right? After a weekend move. I will say, there's CME gaps back from 2021 and 2017 that weren't filled on the weekend because of massive price action in one direction, and the market makers could not reverse price back down or up depending on what way that those CME gaps did form. Likely to the downside, right? Because we had those massive pumps on the weekend back in 2021. It could be a weekend like that, and another one will come for sure. It's not like end all be all. Oh, only 3 CME gaps in the history of Bitcoin, but it could definitely occur again. We could be looking at that 4th one. A weekend pump is not out of the question for Bitcoin. And like I said, been saying on this channel, there's going to be a weekend. There will be a weekend that comes where almost every altcoin in the top 100 pumps 10, 20, 30%. It will. There will be a weekend like that on low liquidity, right? Because just like we caution going to the upside, you cautioning that the downside of the lack of liquidity, market makers being able to flush price really quickly. The public can also flush price really quickly to the upside because there's nothing stopping that price train if enough people get behind the rally, right? Great example of that is back in XRP when XRP went on its monumental run from 50 cents all the way up to $3.30. There was a weekend where XRP price just pumped through that and that gap was never filled, so it could happen for a majority of the altcoins. Very interesting to talk about. Hey, I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for being here. If you guys want to look over any more coins, just drop them on in the chat. Something I do want to look at real quickly, did they update the U.S. economic calendar, baby? U.S. economic calendars. This is something I just like going over on the daily. It keeps it fresh in my mind. Next week, we're going to get a lot of sales data, baby. Coming out on Tuesday, we got a lot of stuff coming, everybody. We got job openings, consumer confidence, retail inventories, things of that nature. We got consumer spending, personal income. We're going to get a glimpse of the consumer, how people are managing their money during this tariff turmoil, baby. During the tariff turmoil, we're going to look at the country's GDP for Q1, how the tariffs did impact that. I saw we brought in like an extra, I forget what it was. We brought in an extra like $15 billion in the last month or so for tariffs when we were originally supposed to bring in 4. That's a lot. That's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money. It's kind of crazy. Initial jobless claims on Thursday, something that moves the market every single week, and we have non-farm payroll and everything coming out on Friday. We got a big week coming up ahead. As far as news goes, that's what we're looking at. One other thing I wanted to look at here, fear and greed, baby. Fear and greed index. I wouldn't be surprised if everything's getting a little frothy. And no, we'll get out there in 22 minutes, but yeah, we're sitting at 60. 60, it's not, that's just not where I'd expect us to be. I would still expect us to be in like the 40, 50 range, right? Pumping out of that fear range. But we got a massive pump the other day. I think the other day, before yesterday, maybe the day before, was up here at like 70 something. That was a crazy move for fear and greed. Absolutely wild. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see what that updates in about 21 minutes. That'll be something to keep on your radar as well. Bitcoin looking really, really good here on the smaller time frames, at least holding that 5-minute 200 SMA for now. We'll see if that can hold. I don't like this here. I don't like this little shoulder head, right shoulder, maybe descending triangle vibes, in my opinion, looking to go on here. Those dump a lot of the times. Not what I'd like to see for Bitcoin moving on into the night. With that being said, I'd much rather the gap be above us than below us coming on Monday. So even if we trend sideways / retrace a little bit, maybe come down and touch these 4-hour, 6-hour, and 8-hour 21 moving averages as we go into the weekend, I think that is very, very likely. And this, as this candle closes, is likely going to be a little bit of a sell-off into that candle, just because people want to take profits on the week, man. It was a monumental week for Bitcoin. You're up 12% on Bitcoin, and some of the altcoins are up a monumental 60, 70, 80% from where they started just 7 days ago. Very interesting. Very interesting. All right, that's what I'm looking at. All right, MH wants cheese, chilies. What? I don't remember what it was, man. Chiz. All right, is it chiz? It's Chili's. I remember looking at this a little while ago. And I don't know what this project does. I really don't. But looking a lot like the other coins we were looking at, you had this massive cup handle that did not play out to fruition out of the 618786 retrace. You tried. You fell beneath the daily 200 MA, retested it as resistance, and now you're trying to get that scoop on up out of here as this daily bullish divergence is trying to save your life, honestly. And it did, breaking this high prior to breaking this low, gapping up to this little gap here in the VRVP, getting stopped at the local high volume node, very, very likely, right? Now you've changed market structure on the smaller time frames. You made that lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, low, higher low, higher high, and now the next opportunity to get in for a Chili's, baby, would be, in my opinion, at this Fibonacci retrace right here, coming back into this 618786. I know it sucks, man. I know. I'll tell you guys this. You know what I hate? I hate waiting for the 618786 Fibonacci. I hate being like, wow, we had that massive bump. Boys Crypto saying we retrace. I hate that. Yeah, I wish I just owned $1 million of this and it just ripped to the upside. But that, in reality, that's not how price action works, right? It just isn't. And if this thing runs and you're in spot, you feel pretty good, right? And if you believe in the long-term aspects of this project, that'd be awesome. But from a leverage perspective, I have to wait for the best scenarios. And to me, that's getting above here, retracing back to the 618 and looking for that reversal. That would give me that nice feeling of the shoulder head and the slanted right shoulder. That would be really good for a massive rocket shot to the upside here for Chili's. Something that's really, really interesting to look at. That's just what I look at from a leverage perspective, because that's how I make my money, man, through leverage. A lot of money comes from spot, right? But I'm not selling spot every day. I just hold my spot and I wait till what I feel like is the top of the market, which I do not believe is now. So I won't be selling any of my spot, whether it be Bitcoin or altcoins in general. I'm just working on accumulating coins. How do I do that? Through leverage trading. So I could look at 1 million different projects and I could tell you what ones. I could be like, hey, yeah, this is coming back to a 618. Oh, this is an area I'd be interested in at this project. If we're not there on this project, I just know to wait. You see your little tickers over here on the side. Man, get that out of here. Whoop. You say your little ticker here on the side, just above the 618, and it'll give you a little pop-up alert when you're at an area that you've said in the past where it's like, I would like to get into a long there. And then you re-look at it when that alert goes off. Why did I set an alert here? Oh, that's right. I wanted to get into a long here at the 618. It still looks good, still feels good. Stochastics are in a position I like. That's when you would enter the long on a macro swing trade. Again, we're looking at the daily. We're not making profits on hourly flags or anything like that when I'm looking at Chili's here. But yeah, you can definitely get flag, right? Flag pump. I'm not saying that this thing has to dump from where we're at right now, but if you're looking for a macro play, that's what I would look at here for Chili's. So I will say this. You are in a little bit of a rising wedge, baby. A rising wedge. These break out one of two ways, right? Naturally, right? To the upside or to the downside. These pennants can break up very, very parabolically to the upside, or they could come back from whence they came. From whence they came here, out of the pennant to the downside. This is what I'd be looking at here for Chili's going on in. And, based off of where the market is, I would say a squeeze to the upside is a lot more likely. The shorts up here are probably pretty substantial. So that's what I'd be looking at for Chili's. You have the gaps in the VRVP to support it. And if you did get this reversal, would that come down to the 618? If you got that reversal, it'll come back down to the golden pocket. So I'd see two scenarios right here. Either getting in, right, from a scalping perspective on a break of this zone, getting a retest of that trend line and taking the rocket shot to the upside, or just waiting for this golden pocket retrace. Those are the two scenarios that I would see right now. Would be a no trade zone for me, just what I'm looking at here on the charts. Now, I will say this. You do have a little bit of bearish divergence forming. Let's get rid of that. You do have a little bit of bearish divergence forming here on the 1 hour time frame. You have that swing down in price action, while you have that swing up on the RSI. So some confusing indications here for this one, saying you're likely to crack this low before this high. That does give you a little bit of a bias towards the downside. With that said, the stochastics are reset. So I'd say it could go either way for this coin. I would need to get a little more. I would need to see how price action plays out in order for me to get a high probability leverage trade on in here, man. But thank you for dropping that on our radar. That's my analysis on. I'm just seeing a lot of confusing indications on the chart. I just do not see a high probability setup from where we currently set in price action. So I gave you my scenarios at 618, 786 retrace or a breakout of that trend line, right, of the rising wedge of that upon that retest. That would look very, very good for a squeeze to the upside. And if you invalidate bearish divergence, even if it's on the 1 hour, that could be a very, very massive move to the upside. So I'd say it could go either way. And to me, that's a no trade zone for me, man. But you do you. I use good risk management. And yeah, it's an interesting project. I appreciate you diving on in and showing us that, as it looks a little different than the rest of the charts that we've been looking at today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, and that was MH. I appreciate you, brother. All right, Wanda, yep, all right, cool. Synastic wants to look at Sol or Sui. Yeah, we'll look at Sui, man. We'll look at Sui. I just love looking at Sui, man. I love looking at Sui. We were talking about Sui the last couple of days. This thing going on a meteoric rocket shot. And I'll tell you guys, like this... I'm not saying full port this thing. Do not confuse what I say with full porting any project. Do your own due diligence before getting into any trade or investment. Oh, running out of water. Do your own due diligence before any trade or getting into any trade or investment. Oh, I love this one for Sui, because whenever I try to clear it, this is my price prediction area that we've put the other day on the stream up here. Boys Crypto 2025 year-end prediction up here at about $12, baby, and we are on the way. But we'll see if we get there. We'll see if we get there. Yeah, that's around that. I put it around that 2025. Yeah, the end of 2025. I'm excited to see where Sui could go. Let me tell you this about Sui. I'm going to put this on y'all's radar so that you guys don't forget it. Look. This is one of my bigger spot. This is my biggest spot holding on for the altcoins, right? And we were averaging in down here on Sui. Felt very, very good in our box of remembrance on total 3. That was the biggest altcoin that I accumulated during that time. And boy, I'll tell you, it felt good, baby. It felt good. I utilized this asset on iTrust Capital, and you know, I made a monumental. Honestly, my retirement account is looking very, very juicy, baby. Very, very juicy. Scooping in on some altcoin trades in and out on iTrust Capital for tax-free and everything. And it feels really, really good when you're seeing your net worth not multiply, but, get 40, 50% gainers in a single day. Feels really, really good on your retirement account if you know what you're doing. You just go in and out of the altcoins, back in the Bitcoin, in and out of the altcoins, back in the Bitcoin. And I've been doing immaculate, man. For reference, I had my money sitting in that retirement account the entire 6 years I was in the United States Navy. And in the last 3 weeks, I made more money than that retirement account did in the last 6 years. So I was very, very, very happy with, how that's working. I have full control over the funds now. When I was in the Navy, I didn't. I just put it into whatever funds they allowed me to, right? The C, the E, the C, the I, and the X, or what was it? The foreign investment funds, because it was the highest risk, and I was young, and I was like, hey, yeah, let's go, baby. And it just didn't perform. It didn't perform super well, right? Which was crazy, because the stock market went wild. Just goes to show the government doesn't know how to manage money, baby. But you know who does? We do here on the Boys Crypto channel, baby. We do here. Very, very interesting. So yeah, I love the VRVP, man. That's what happens. You get a low gap in the VRVP, and boop, you'll squeeze right up through that. And Sui getting a leg up here, pounding through those sell orders that were likely sitting up here in this zone, closing above, likely to close above in the next 12 minutes above that 200 daily SMA at $3.50. Can you believe it? Just 4 days ago, you're sitting down at 218, and you pumped all the way up to almost $4, $3.80 here. You were so close to getting up to this gap in the VRVP, squeezing up a little higher. Didn't quite get there. So, Sui here. It's hard to me. You know what this looks like to me? I'm saying this. I'm saying that from a spot perspective buying, right? Now, where are my orders in for Sui? I've already been pulling my fib over and over and over and over again. I've been adjusting my buy orders on spot that is 618. That keeps moving up at about 252. That's where I got my spot orders in. I think my spot orders are a little lower than that on Coinbase here, so I'll have to adjust those. But yeah, this is looking good. I think I have some other ones on my Elipal Titan, so I'm very, very excited to see if those trigger. If we don't, I'm not going to keep averaging in up here. I got a lot of Sui at really good prices, and I'm not looking to bring my average price up, man. I'm absolutely not. So That squeeze to the upside looks really good. I think this is going to be one of the top performers of the season. Not only that, they got rumors that they're partnering with Pokemon, and the NFT space in that is going to be absolutely massive. Some cards trade of over $1,000 a card, several $1,000s a card, and you have a giant market that you're tapping on into, not just a trading card game, right, but digital NFTs, and, you know, honestly, a gambling market that could really bring in a lot of revenue for this asset, man. I think the team's really smart. I think they have a really good unlock schedule, vesting period. It's a cool asset, and I can't wait to see if they come up with any kind of staking or anything. They have a lot of announcements coming out May 1st and 2nd, so keep those on X. If you follow them on X, they got some big announcements coming May 1st and 2nd. Maybe this is the run-up, anticipating the hype, so we'll see what those announcements are. If it's a partnership with Pokemon, baby, I'm telling you, this thing will scream to the upside. Maybe not initially, but you start getting revenue from a game that entertains hundreds of millions of people around the world. Ooh, that is going to be a game changer for the space. Not just for Sui, Hyperliquid, SEI, a lot of the hot gaming tokens, Illuvium will come back. A lot of the big narrative gaming tokens will come back because if Sui's doing it, why can't they? If Sui's doing it, then other gaming companies are going to be like, oh, Pokemon's doing it. Maybe we got to get on board, and they're going to start talking to Sui or SEI or another platform that they want to start putting their NFTs on and things like that. So it's really interesting. It's a really interesting play. That's speculating. Now, we have ran very hard over the last couple of days. That's why my limit orders are in down here. We made that first lower high, lower low, lower high, made a higher low, and now we made a higher high. Where's that first higher low likely to come in? As much as it pains me, right? And I may even take from this reaction right here. You know, 618 sitting at about 270. It pains me to say, I think we can see those prices again. Maybe, right? Support, resistance, flip, right? Resistance, that would be support and provide a great floor for continued upside for Sui. I think there is going to be a likely cool off here. With that being said, look at this thing in Maduga on the 1 hour, baby. Look at this thing. This thing's been a nonstop train. You look at it on the 2 hour time frame, you can see this as a flag, right? If you'd like to, if you want to stretch it and say, hey, this is just a flag, it's coming down to a local fib, right? Where would a local fib come in? Well, you can take it from this reaction right here, and you're coming down to the 618786, and you almost got to the 618 right here on the 2 hour time frame from this reaction down here, the prior range, the 2 hour range, right? It's a micro Fibonacci, but these Fibonacci's do work when you're talking about bull flags getting extrapolated to the upside. This could be a very nice play going on into Sui. Again, I don't think I'm going to be jumping on into any leverage trades here, but 440 seems like it could be on it is on the table for Sui. It is on the table, be it less likely. It is on the table here for Sui. I see a little bit more of a deeper retracement here, maybe even down here to test this high volume node where the most amount of Sui has transacted in this local range right here. Maybe test that as support and then move further to higher prices. We'll have to see. But that is what I'm looking at for Sui. Sui been the most unstoppable freight train to the upside here in the last couple of days. What a monumental move. How many other altcoins are closing candles above their daily 200 SMA? I really couldn't find any. I couldn't find any that were closing above the daily 200. If you guys know one that are closing candles above the daily 200 SMA right now, let me know. Don't see a lot. Maybe there's some in the top 10. I haven't really looked at Solana or anything like that, but man, it's hard to find some altcoins that are, sticking above their daily 200 SMA. I don't even think Solana's there. No, Solana's not there. Solana's far off. I know Ethereum's way off. Ethereum's 200 SMA is sitting up about $3,000, is it not? Yeah, 2744. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, yeah, the market's saying that there's a redistribution of money right here, and there's momentum in some of the stronger plays, and some of the other plays I think aren't going to hold up as strong as, I just think Sui's going to be the new narrative. It has the technology to compete with Solana, to compete with Ethereum, and it does it faster, cheaper, and you're looking at a market cap of $10 billion, maybe even higher than that right now. I think it's at $11.4 billion. This is crazy. We got into this when we were sitting at about a little less than $7 billion. Yeah, $7 billion. And now you're feeling, now it's like, wow, like could this 10x from here? I really think it has the potential to do so on a sustained altcoin run. All right, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I am looking at. That's Sol, Sui, baby. Christoph wants to look at Engine. Yeah, let's dive on in and look at Engine, man. I appreciate you diving on into the chat. Diving on in, baby. All right, and that's going to be where I cut it for the day on Engine, baby. Engine coin. Where have I heard of it? This was, I remember this was a runner back in 21. Yep, runner back in 21. And it went from 10 cents all the way up to 3. You 39x your money right here in the course of this is what an alt season looks like. 3 months, 30x. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, so let's see what we got in here for Engine. Now, again, I don't know anything about the team. If the team's still there, if they abandoned, if they sold off their stash, I have no idea. Don't like how you're cracking the lows. You're at the all-time lows as you speak, right? The past week or past 2 weeks, you've been trading at all-time lows. You got to pray for a reversal right here. And the only sign of reversal you got right here is this bounce off of, you know, you got to, let's see here. So you got some daily bullish divergence right here. That did get you the bounce out of this zone right here. Out of this colossal downtrend, you got that bounce out of that daily bullish divergence. This is why I caution shorting after things have been sold off so hard, because that squeeze killed everybody that got in on shorts in the past 2 months. In 2 days, essentially in 2 days. Wild, absolutely wild. So you're looking for a flag out here on the daily. That high volume node, a key area you gotta reclaim, man. You gotta reclaim this area, especially with that wick. It is very key from a macro technical analysis perspective that you reclaim that high volume node and you're sitting there right now. And it really doesn't even look, you could say, oh boy, crypto, this is a flag. It doesn't really look like it has a nice structure to me here. I mean, you could even pull it like that. I don't like the way that looks. I'd like to see how this plays out a little more here in the near term. Maybe you can get a little bit of a shoulder, head, right shoulder action on the smaller time frames. Yeah, that's what I would be looking for here. You'd have to look for the shoulder, head, right shoulder. You coming down to the 618? Looks like you are. You got that 618. Yeah, you got that nice 618 touch. Maybe a little bit of a front run of the 618 right here. You got a little bit of a front run of the 618, and you got that shoulder, head, right shoulder on the smaller time frames going by full candle body closures here. You got the shoulder. You got the head inverted, right shoulder, baby. That needs to hold here, and you need to reclaim that high volume node in order to go and start gapping up through this giant gap you have here in the VRVP of the local range that you formed. And if we zoom on out here, we could get a little bit more clear data, but there's not going to be a lot that we could trust. Why? Because we're at prices that we haven't seen before. On price discovery to the downside, these high volume nodes could be drastically exacerbated. I think that's the right word. Exacerbated comparatively to the rest of the charts, right? You zoom on out here, these high volume nodes that are sitting down here represent comparatively how much has been bought and sold, you know, in comparison to the rest of the chart, and just based off of what we see. So if we zoom on out here, baby, you can see that a lot of it's actually been trading down here, and that makes sense, right? With how cheap the asset is, there's a lot more volume wise that has to be traded for the same dollar amount to exchange hands. So that's really interesting to see. The 4 hour, I'd give it a little more time to develop here, but you're looking for that gap up here in the VRVP. It's a crucial time here for Engine to get that reversal to the upside. It's what I'm looking at on the charts here for Engine going on into the night. Very, very critical zone. You need to see that shoulder, head, right shoulder form out here on the 1 or 2 hour time frame. That's what I'd be looking at, brother. Now going on into the night, it's gotta hold. You got to gap up here. If you start failing, you start playing 200 MA dominoes to the downside, you could be in some trouble for Engine. Why? Because you're in that zone. This could have been just a retest. Let's see if this was a retest. Zooming on up here. I don't like how that looks right there. It was support, that was your zooming on out. Support. That wick, that retest, that support resistance failed to break. And it validated this zone as resistance. You did it once here and twice with that wick. So I just be careful on Engine here. If you could get a flag, a nice juicy flag, scalp to the upside, maybe get that push above and reclaim that as macro support, that would be a beautiful area to long. If we did get this kind of price action here, get that move here, that would be the area to long with your stops down in these zones, looking for higher prices upon reclaiming that support level. But right now, I got to be skeptical here, and I just got to say that we're in a zone that we have not been in even since the project's inception back here in 2020, and you got to think that there's 3 times the amount of money in circulation right now. So to me, that's a 6x decrease in valuation in my mind when you're comparing it to US dollars. So yeah, it's very interesting to see right now for Engine. I just don't think it's one of the hotter coins in the game, and I'm just gonna give you my honest opinion, man. I could be completely wrong. That thing could tunnel to the upside. I'm just reading the charts as I see them, brother, and I hope the best for you if you are in this project. If you are in this project and you're looking for a scalp, it could be really juicy if you do get back above that key support resistance flip. All right, but that's what I am looking at going on into the night, everybody. The last couple chats here. Looking for a good spot to buy more Sui and Sol with my house profit. Yeah, man. Hey, I got you here. So Sui, my limit orders are scaling up here on Sui as price action moves up as well. With this wick, I'm actually going to modify them a little bit. I'm going to move I'll tell you where I'm putting my spot, where my spot orders are going to be moved from. Right now, they're sitting down here on this wick right here. I don't think the wick got that high earlier. They're sitting down in the 240s. I'm going to move that up based off of this wick. And I'm going to take it from this reaction right here. I'm going to be happy getting on in the Sui in this range right here, in this 240 to 270 range. So the way I do it, man, I put orders in here at the 618, 786, and the 706, right? I layer them down in here, and usually I have about 4 or 5 going in between those zones, and whatever hits, you usually get that reversal, and you got to be happy with what you could get, right? And they layer, like I put in, you know, if I were to divide it, right, they're not equal 20% split, or like 20% of what I want to allocate. Say I want to allocate $100. These aren't all $20, right? They scale a bit, right? So this will be like 10, this would be like 20, this would be like 25, this would be like 35, and this would be like 45. Because, right, I want to get in at the juiciest prices as possible while managing my risk when it comes to spot, right? Ultimately, spot, I just want to get the best prices possible, right? So I layer down on in here, and if I do get that 786 bounce, I'm really happy, right? Because I got in at the best prices possible with the maximum amount of capital. If we only get the 618, 786, or 706, I'm happy because I got in a little bit more at some better prices. But ultimately, if we get the reversal from here, right? The reversal from here, I'll take this money that I had in at the 786 down here, and I'll look for other opportunities and other projects to accumulate those so that I could, you know, I could get the best prices I possibly can on assets when they do retrace. That's what I'm looking at for Sui, man. That's what I'm looking at for Sui. Hey, MH, I appreciate you, brother. Christoph, thanks for the coin. Thanks for the coin suggestions. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for being here with me tonight. Sin Nasty Kid, April, Andrew Greason, first time in the chat. I appreciate you, brother, diving on in. We had Wanda earlier. We got, Sin Nasty Kid, Christoph, MH. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys being here and hopping on in the chat. Make sure to smash that like button before you guys head on out of here. Definitely helps my channel, helps the stream, baby. Much love to each and every single one of you guys. I will bring it to you hot off the press tomorrow on the weekend session, baby. Saturday Night Live with Boys Crypto. I'll see you then. My name's Matt. Boys Crypto is out, baby. We are out. Much love, everybody. Enjoy your Friday night. Take a break, man. Get outside, smell the grass, you know, go on a run. If you're like me and you got love handles dragging on the ground, it's a great opportunity in order to get out there and burn some fat, baby. Just, you know, hey, improving yourself financially, mentally, physically, you know, however you do it. Definitely spend some time with your family. Enjoy that banana hammock, Sin Nasty Kid, brother. I know you ordered that cock one with all the, you know, the colors and everything. Hope you and your wife enjoy that, brother. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. But yes, enjoy your time this weekend. If you want to take a break and take a step away from the charts, that's okay. The weekends are the time to do it. Why? Because more often than not, Monday, that CME gap is likely going to get filled, and we'll be right back where we were just right now as the daily candle closed at this, you know, at all these levels, the 4-hour, 6-hour thing. Right here, this price right here, regardless of where price goes, very likely we retrace to those zones coming on Monday. So nothing to fear, everybody. Take some time, take some breath away from the charts. Much love, everybody. I will see you guys. You going surfing, MH? Hey, shout out to you, man. I wish I could surf. I tried skateboarding one time. I almost broke my neck, but yeah, not looking to do that again. But yeah, hey, much love, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Until then, Boys Crypto is out, baby. We are out.